So last week was pretty fun. We missed you. We hit 16 barbecue places in 6 days.
Yeah, I saw all of Michael's pictures. It looked incredible.
It was crazy because honestly, as the week went on, I felt like I was getting stronger and stronger in terms of being able to eat
Indigestion.
barbecue.
Oh,
So, but yeah, it was a good week.
yeah.
We it seemed like every time we'd go to a new place, there'd be something else, some unique thing that they did that would keep it interesting. So,
Yeah.
and it was fun to see everybody's different takes on brisket, ribs, pork ribs, beef ribs, sausage. I wonder if let's see if I can share some photos here.
So what did you come up with your favorite as?
That's really tough.
Yeah.
There was a couple places that really stood out. One was called Burnt Bean, and that's in Seguin, Texas, just outside of San Antonio.
Okay.
And here's some pictures from them. Oh, that's not how I want to do it. Let me see if I can just share my screen.
Yeah, I saw pictures from Michael every day.
We'll share it with everybody else in First Step Bitcoin today.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm sharing my screen. Go over to photos if I can. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes. I don't see any pictures.
Now, do you see pictures?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let me start with the pictures. So this place, it's called Burnt Bean, and this was a brisket taco with Mexican pickled onions, like a little bit of a creamy cilantro. I don't know if it had avocado in it. It was hard to taste. I should have taken a fingerful.
Yeah.
But and then it was like a queso fresco on the taco, really crumbly, a little bit salty, just really delicious. But this is so funny to say about a taco. The tortilla was the best flour tortilla I've ever had. He makes it with beef tallow.
Oh.
So instead of using butter or lard, or mostly lard is what people make it with, but instead of using that, or sometimes butter or some other sort of oil, he used beef tallow, and it was like just the texture of the tortilla. It was light and fluffy without being big and thick. It was and just had a great flavor. It was impressive. So, and then
when I worked for A&W back when I was in high school, we used beef tallow for deep frying everything.
Oh, A&W.
Yeah.
I thought you said BMW.
No.
What does BMW deep fry?
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet. I can't remember. I was reading something. Some big name talking head in the health space was talking about how it got totally demonized, and now we're finding out it's way better than all these other oils that we use to fry things in.
I think that was RFK Jr.
Was it? I almost said him, but I didn't.
He said he wants to go back to beef tallow for deep frying.
That I did hear, but I was talking about, and I can't remember who it was, and it may have been in response to what Bobby Kennedy was saying, but he was saying, like, showing like there's actually some benefits to it. There's some natural. Your body knows how to use it very well.
Yes.
That was one of them. And it has, if I remember right, and I may be stretching here, something about omega-3s and grass-fed beef.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that that's necessarily the best source, but anyways, we're just finding out all these processed oils are not as good for us as they were.
No, processed oil is terrible because your body doesn't know, your liver doesn't know how to break it down.
Yeah, so it just kind of floats around in your body until it gets expelled.
Or it clocks something up.
Yeah, that's not good. So this is also from Burnt Bean, and this is pozole, a green pozole. Dad, this may have been one of the best soups I've ever had in my life. It was so flavorful, like so the spices in it were so good, like so it's just such a good combo. Like they just worked together so well. There was like a mouth filling like fattiness, but not greasy, not like overdone to the broth.
Right.
It was so, and then just the little crispy strips and the little chunks of um we were talking about it afterwards. We didn't talk about it during, but we weren't sure if it was chicken or pork. So it didn't matter. It was so good. And it it had hominy in it as well.
Yeah.
So,
White hominy or yellow?
white hominy.
Yeah.
So
That's
it was delicious. I like hominy. I'm trying to remember. I remember eating hominy as a kid, but I can't remember what we had it in. Didn't mom have like a casserole or something that she made?
No,
That's so funny.
Renato says it's the best that he's ever had too. And
Oh,
his
wow.
mother, Luis, is famous, or not Luis, but Vito is famous for his pozole.
Wow.
And he said it's better than that.
That's awesome.
Maybe next time when you guys come,
yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, you won't believe it.
So mom made pozole growing up. I remember
was.
having stuff with hominy, and it's funny you said she made pozole because as a kid, I I don't remember even knowing what pozole was, but of course you guys did growing up in LA. But did she make a chili with it, or am I just remembering the pozole?
No,
She probably uses a totally different, a way more authentic recipe, much
yeah,
more authentically Mexican, probably.
she's got 4 different peppers that she puts in there, and cumin and all kinds of things. I mean, it's her pozole is phenomenal.
Well, yeah, we got to make, we got to do that when we come down.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, where have you been all my life, pozole?
Aaron wants pozole for 4th of July, Jody.
Well, we're not going to be there for 4th of July, actually.
Okay.
We're going to go up to Utah. We're hoping you guys will come up too if Stacy and her kids don't have baseball and whatnot. We're going to do that water slide with the Clarks, and Kristen's been wanting to go up there and do a small town parade. So
yeah, that's
anyways. So that was that's the brisket from Burnt Bean. It was excellent. It was really interesting because trying so many briskets, most of them, almost all of them were cooked super well. There's probably only a couple that we were just like, eh. One of them we got there at the end of the day, and we just feel like we kind of got the dregs. And it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't fantastic like the other ones were. But this one was definitely a top-notch one. This one had a little bit more than just salt and pepper going on, a little bit more like a Mexican style rub, a little bit more earthy, spicy. And that you can see a little bit of that in that upper corner of the picture. You can see that turkey slice. That was our number 2 favorite turkey slice. So it was really good, just juicy, tender. It was like Lowell was saying he wished he could have made a sandwich out of that one, and then our favorite one, which was from Goldie's. But there's the turkey right there. You can see it's just
so it was better than that one you take us to in Arizona.
Yes, it was. You know what? I go to that one. Okay, so interesting story. My very favorite barbecue place here in Arizona. I think it's the best place in Arizona. The guy from Burnt Bean came by our table, was talking to us, asking how we like the food, asked where we're from. I said Arizona, and he's all, have you ever been to Little Miss Barbecue? And I'm all, yes, I love it. It's my favorite barbecue in Arizona. He's all, mine too. He's all, it's an excellent barbecue. And his favorite thing there actually is the green chili burrito. So he'll like go out of his way to go up there and get a green chili burrito. But he says it's excellent barbecue. So funny, but I guess it's a smaller world than you think, because we were talking to the different people at the different places, and they all kind of knew each other. And that guy at Burnt Bean, his name was Ernest. He was telling us he goes up to this other small town that we were in, and he goes like once a week and just gets a couple of ribs because they're his favorite ribs, and he gets some of their beans and one of their sausages,
Really?
and he breaks up the sausage and puts it in the beans. He says their beans aren't that great, and their sausage aren't that great, but when you put them together, they're awesome. So we thought that was pretty funny.
Magical fusion.
Yeah. So he'll get 2 sausages and 2 ribs and some beans when he goes there. And he eats the ribs because they're his favorite ribs. He breaks one sausage into the beans, and the other sausage he cuts it in half and puts it on the bread, because most of the places in Texas give you slices of white bread with the barbecue. So he'll slather some mustard on it and make a little sausage sandwich out of it. He says it's one of his favorite things. But he says they always mess with them because they don't have mustard packets. Like most barbecue places are not carrying mustard, right?
Right.
So when he wants some mustard, they know who he is, because his restaurant Burnt Bean is widely considered one of the very best in Texas right now. They bring him out the whole 1-gallon jar of mustard and just like drop it on the table next to him. And he says, he's like, oh, I know they're messing with me. He's like, oh, they don't even give me like a spoon or a knife. They'll just say, just pour it on there. You know what to do. But so that was Burnt Bean. And then our other favorite place, I want to show you these other pictures, and then we'll get to more weightier matters.
Was that place that you waited in line from 6:30 worth it?
Yes. It really was. Oh, one more picture. This at Burnt Bean, this was probably our favorite dessert of the week. It was red velvet tres leches cake, and they have fresh whipped heavy cream, and they put a dollop in the bottom, and then they take an ice cream scooper and scoop up a scoop of the cake, throw it in there, put another layer of the heavy whipped cream, and then one more scoop of the tres leches cake, and then a little bit of cream on top. This was phenomenal. If you like tres leches cake, this one was wonderful.
Tres leches parfait.
Exacto. Yep. Donkey would have loved it. Everybody loved parfait. So yeah, that was amazing. And then of course we went to the Alamo. Got to go to the Alamo when you're there. Oh, one other thing. So when you're in San Antonio has this thing called puffy tacos. It's unique to San Antonio, and I really like them. And my favorite place, there's several places there in San Antonio that do them, but my favorite is Henry's puffy tacos. So they take a corn tortilla and they fry it, and it gets all puffy. Like, you know how when the tortillas swell, they fry them, get them to swell, and then however they do it, it stays pretty swollen, but it gets really crispy. And this place, Henry's, has a picadillo, which is one of my favorite flavors of a taco. Or you usually see it along the border in Texas, and it comes down to New Mexico, Arizona as well. It's kind of a Chihuahua thing, but it's like ground beef sauteed with potatoes, onions, carrots, and a little bit of spices. I would say it's like Mexican sloppy Joe, and it's really flavorful. And then we also got their fajita beef and their fajita chicken, which were also just fantastic. The seasoning on them, they were tender, they were juicy, they were well seasoned. Like, they had definitely some, Mexican seasonings on there, like oregano, cumin or cominos, but not super powerful. Like, it let the meat do its thing. It was really good, because a lot of places I was really noticing this. I use a heavier rub when I make ribs, and I'm not going to do it anymore. Because one of the first places we went to, they just had a very simple rub that they put on their pork ribs. It was just salt, pepper, brown sugar, and not heavy on the brown sugar. And it was such a good combo. And you taste the pork and the flavor of the meat so much more instead of the seasonings. And that was what I liked about Henry's too. Their chicken fajita, their beef fajita, they were seasoned, and they were very complimentary to the meat. They didn't overpower it. You could still taste the chicken. You could still taste the beef. You know, it was really good. So if you're ever in San Antonio, you need to get puffy tacos for sure.
You should have gone to see Jim and John.
To see who?
Jim and Shauna.
Oh, they live in San Antonio?
Yeah, they've been up there for probably over a year.
I didn't know. Actually, I think I did know that. I just didn't remember it was San Antonio. Doesn't Jimmy live out in that way?
No, I think
Mary. This was a fresas con like.
okay.
And where were we? Oh, we were in Austin. I was surprised to find one there, but we did. And this was and another had this.
No, I haven't.
Oh, man, they're so good, Dad. With the
do they have those at La Mexicana?
I don't know. We should check next time we go, or you should check. You'll go before I go.
Yeah.
But you should check and see. It was really. What's that?
What's it called?
Fresas con crema. That's strawberries with cream.
Okay.
But and I think if you ask for it by that, they'll tell you whether or not they have it. This one was really good, and the sour cream, a little bit of sour cream or something similar to it mixed with the heavy cream was like a good give it a good little twang. It was really good. And then we had a mangoneada. They do theirs with shaved ice. They make like a smoothie with shaved ice and a fresh mango, and it was pretty good. I like the ones with the sorbet better. So I want to find that last place that we went. This was something that I found a little bit disturbing. Surf and turf at Arby's. I just am really at a loss for what the surf would be. And I don't know. Maybe
I'm sure it's like Gordon's fish patty.
Yeah. It probably is, but I'm just like roast beef and fish patty on the same sandwich. I'm just not seeing it. But maybe I need to try it. You know,
they do have fish sandwich though.
So someone else was telling me that too. Can't remember if it was Lowell that was telling me that Garna said that, or something else came up and they were saying that they really like the fish sandwich at Arby's and says,
Garna loves them.
This La Barbecue place was also really good. Not one of our faves, but it was. Oh, where's my other pictures? Dang. Oh, that stinks. I wanted to show you my last favorite place. Wow, I guess they just haven't transferred to my iPad. They had an Italian beef sandwich that was the best Italian beef sandwich I ever have had. I was thinking that it wasn't going to be that good because it was thicker slices of beef, and that's part of what I like about a regular Chicago style one is the thin sliced beef, but it was perfect. They also had a picanha steak, which is popular in Brazil and starting to become really popular here now. I think it's part of the sirloin, someone was telling me. It has like the fat cap on it still. I might be wrong with that. I'm just going off what someone else told me. But they also had French fries fried in beef tallow that went with the picanha, and they called it steak frites. And it was amazing. The French fries were so good. And the picanha, it was the first time I've ever had picanha. Have you ever had a hanger steak, Dad?
Yes, I have. They're good.
It's like a hanger steak, just a little bit tougher than a regular steak, but totally edible and good, and way more beefy flavor. It was so good. Anyways, that is that. How do I get back to Zoom? And I'm going to stop my screen share there. So, anyways, it was a good week. Still recording? I am. Okay, good. So yeah, good week. Did some videos. I got to post a couple more videos from barbecue joints that I did on Bitcoin last week. Did you have any questions for today? I have one to go over.
Okay.
I don't know.
No,
if you had
nothing. Just I keep seeing more institutional places making big buys and sovereign wealth funds. I posted a couple things on there. Abu Dhabi just like doubled their Bitcoin holdings, and Wisconsin increased theirs by 110% in their last filing.
Wisconsin, wow.
Wisconsin, state of Wisconsin, they're in for about 326 million or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. They're up to, they got like 6,000. No, that's going to be more than that. 6,000 Bitcoin, over 6,000.
Impressive.
the Wisconsin. Yeah.
So the question I got, and as we're doing this video today, Bitcoin's at about 94,000, a little above 94,000. And so one of the questions that has come up is, okay, so all these people are buying Bitcoin, all these institutional buyers, states, trees. Why is the price, $12,000 below its all-time high?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been wondering that too. If they've got some way of artificially holding the price down, or they load all this money in there, or what it is, I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. And that's going to be my answer. I don't really know. I hear and I read a lot of things. Truth be told, I don't think anybody really knows. But I do know these large buyers don't usually announce their intentions, but they will make an announcement after they've bought to say, we've bought this much, right?
Right.
And
well, they have to do a filing.
What's that?
The large places have to do a filing.
They have to do a filing.
They have to disclose it.
They do. And I think but I don't think they have to disclose it prior to making the purchase.
No.
So,
but they're a quarterly disclosure.
Exactly.
So 4 times a year, they got to report.
And they don't want to make a lot of noise before they buy it, because if everybody says I'm buying, and they all go and buy it once, that is going to send the price way higher. And these institutions, they want to, and you can see that sideways price movement on that chart there that you were showing, Dad. They want to keep things.
It's a channel for quite a while.
Yeah, they want to keep things mellow. They want it to do that while they're buying. And then they want it to go up after they buy. And if they make a lot of noise, if they buy a ton all at once instead of trickle buying it, and they work with people who, brokerages who are expert at buying large quantities of stocks, Bitcoin, other bonds, and doing it in a way that it doesn't affect the market price. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Right.
So even with them doing the buying they've done, obviously at this point in time, there's not enough demand to outstrip the supply to where it's going to cause the price. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, that's what's happening here. Regardless of who's buying, there's enough people selling that they're able to keep the price stable right now. I don't think that's going to happen forever, but I don't know. I could be wrong. What I would say about this, though, is that the new supply of Bitcoin is going to continue to go down, and you're going to have more and more of these companies, firms, countries, states cities that are going to want to buy Bitcoin. And so the demand is going to go up. So over time, it is going to push that price higher. It's going to attract more miners as the price gets higher. The miners are going to be rewarded better for mining Bitcoin, which is essentially just using their computers. They're buying a specialized computer that helps to maintain the network. And as that happens, the network becomes more stable, more secure. It becomes more trusted, and in turn, people start to buy more. Bitcoin runs on a totally different set of fundamentals than like a stock or a bond. And people have gotten really expert at looking at companies and seeing what their core business is, seeing if they are making money, seeing if they're profitable, seeing if they're growing. And you just look at different things with Bitcoin. You look at the strength of the network. The strength of the network keeps going up, which means it is growing, right? It is becoming more and more secure every day. The volume of Bitcoin being sold every day is going up over time. But right now we're in a pattern where I would say you're going to see this probably 75% of the time with Bitcoin. You're going to see it going up and down in these channels and not moving up very high, not going down very low. It gets boring. People lose interest. And then about 10 to 12% of the time, you'll have these growth periods where it just shoots up. And then that last 10 to 12% of the time, you're going to have some periods where it takes a beating and the price is going to drop. And this is all very normal. This has been happening now for 16 years. And we've seen this through 4 cycles. We've seen these same patterns to where, 75% of the time, Bitcoin's just kind of going up and down on a small channel. It's really boring. It's not fun. Lots of questions come like, when is it going to grow again? When am I going to see my net worth increase? But about every 4 years, you're gonna go through a cycle where it really shoots up.
Well, it is
So
fun
far,
though. It is fun if you're taking advantage of the
yeah.
highs and lows in that channel. I've got a limit order in right now. If it drops to 92.5, I'm making another buy. So, it's like you put it out there, and I didn't honestly know what it was till you brought it up there. I try not to look at it too often. You know,
Yeah, you can drive yourself crazy.
yeah, you can.
But yeah, this is very normal for those who are wondering why Bitcoin is kind of in this channel. It's it's doing its thing. People are buying and selling at about the same rate right now. There's about as many people selling as there are buying. Maybe a little less because it's dropped. That post-election enthusiasm wore off, but I think we're going to see demand continue to increase. And I think if the U.S. and other players get serious, I think if right now about 450 new Bitcoin are being produced every day, and I think once we get past buying that all up and digging well into whatever else, using up all the available, because there's always going to be people selling Bitcoin, cashing in, earlier buyers that want to take some of it out and use it. And as they get deeper into those pockets and chew up or buy the supply that people are putting out there because they want to cash out, then I think we're going to see another burst but I just don't know when that is. I don't think anybody does.
You can't tell.
And so but the main point was, the main question was, why is Bitcoin going up and down, bouncing back and forth between about a high of 106,000 and a low of 94,000. It's been kind of in that channel. The main reason is that this is normal. This is what Bitcoin does. 75% of the time, you're going to see Bitcoin moving in a channel like that.
Sideways.
Yep, going sideways. Demand and supply are about even. You probably have some people making buy orders on the low end like you are. And when it triggers a series of buy orders, that's going to push the price up higher. And then on the top side, you have people also saying, I want to get out at 104, 105, 106. So when it hits there, it triggers a series of sell orders that brings the price back down. It's more complex than that, but I think that's the simplest way to describe it.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. But I think that's what's happening. This is very normal. Until we reach a new level of demand for Bitcoin, it's going to go sideways. And we don't know when that new level of demand is going to be reached either. So,
right. And I think also it can take a jump on news, because if they do get this, America does do a sovereign wealth fund, and we do start selling our gold and buying Bitcoin with that money, then I think it's going to just, all the countries around the world are going to say, oh yeah, we better get in this. The US is getting in it,
Yeah. News will move it for sure.
Yeah.
I did a video about that recently, about the main things that move Bitcoin. And I would say like fundamentals, like people buying and selling, obviously move it. News moves it. Big events move it as well. The elections seem to be a trigger. COVID was a trigger that really dropped the price of not just Bitcoin, but everything.
Everything.
So disasters can affect
such a good buying opportunity. Yeah.
So people just, I think it's going to happen. You're going to see some of these. We just never know. Those things are completely unpredictable. I would say Bitcoin's been remarkably predictable for the first 16 years, to where you can say, hey, every 4 years, the price of this is going to go up significantly. We don't know exactly how it's going to fold out. It's unfolded differently every time. But the timing has been different every time, is what I'm saying. It's not like 6 months after the new supply gets cut in half, it goes up. Sometimes it's been as early, I want to say, as like 8 months. Other time, actually even earlier than that. But and sometimes as late as like 18 months. So and really, we're not even a year out from the last halving. So we're well within the experience of what. And I mean, I also want to be honest too, is like, I believe, based on what I've learned about Bitcoin, like it is the most free market out there, and it is the most supply and demand driven asset I've ever seen. And I believe those things are going to work together to make it a powerful, powerful investment.
And the scarcity.
And the scarcity, right? Absolutely. That's what drives the supply and demand, is the fact that there is no new supply that you can create for Bitcoin. And we've already created 95% of it. We're going to create another 4% of the total supply over the next 10 years. And then over the next 100 years after that, the last 1% will be created. So it's almost, in effect, you could say right now, pretty much all the Bitcoin has been produced. It's going to be produced, like 95% of it. So almost all of it. So the new supply coming in is going to be very small compared to what's already out there. So the scarcity is a very real thing. It is an absolutely scarce asset. There'll never be more than 21 million, and that is going to affect the price. We've always, as human beings, when you look at the history of money, we've always chosen to use things that are scarce. And then once those things become unscarce, we stop using them. And gold has been so good because it's been pretty like 1 to 2% new supply every year. It's been pretty predictable. Silver has taken a beating multiple times throughout history. You know, when the Spanish came to the Americas, found all the silver mines, they created a lot of wealth for themselves, but eventually they undid themselves as well, because there was so much silver out there. It started to decline in value. It was being inflated so much more than 1 to 2% a year, and it ruined its scarcity. It ruined that aspect of its usefulness as money. People have probably heard about glass beads being used in Africa, and European traders came there and saw this, and it was very difficult for the Africans to make those glass beads, right? So the new supply was very small. It was very costly to make them. So that scarcity made it valuable. Well, the Europeans figured out how to mass produce it.
We're going to buy everything.
Came down with boatloads of glass beads and bought everything. Another really interesting story that I like is there were these, I want to say it was in the Guam, Micronesia area of the Pacific. They, on one of the islands, or a chain of the islands, I'm not sure, but they use these very large statues as money. And so when you were trading for something, you would trade like a portion of the statue or a couple of statues that your family owned, and there would be a public ceremony where they would acknowledge the transfer of ownership, right? Well, again, you know, the Europeans come there and they're all, oh, we could make these. And so they make some big ones. They bring them, ship them over the item, unload them, and start buying everything. And pretty soon people are, I'm not taking statues anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know, so again, inflation, right?
I want fish now.
Yeah, we want fish. We want real goods, you know.
Yeah.
You guys got some clothes or something, or tools? But yeah, it's money. Us human beings, we like to use scarce things for money. Once everybody's got a ton of it, I read a book called The History. I want to say it was The History of Money and Banking in the United States. And they talked about this in the early days of the United States. They had all kinds of currency running through the United States.
Oh, yeah.
Spanish doubloons.
States made their own.
You know, silver pounds from England. They made their own. Yeah. Some banks minted their own. And it was surprising how you could go out into the boonies and to a trading post or something like that. And the person who owned the trading post or operated would have a pretty good idea of what the value of all the different coins were, based on what they were seeing, based on conversations with other traders, the people they were buying from. And so, you know, if the market was getting flooded with silver pounds, they'd stop taking them. If they were getting flooded with Spanish doubloons, they'd stop taking them, because they knew it was like an instinctive part of, like, having grown up in these business and information and wisdom had been
too much supply.
When you see this, you need to cut your losses. Do not, you know, and I think about it too. It's like, nowadays you have places like GameStop, right? They trade and use games. And we've gone there tons of times over the years to trade in our old games and get new ones. And it's like, there's certain games, like Nintendo games, like the latest releases for Nintendo, like their Legend of Zelda games, their Nintendo brand games like Mario Kart, things like that. They hold their value very well. You know, you can go in there and trade one of those in for like $30 in credit, and they'll sell it used for $45 or something like that, which is $15 less than a new one. But
Right.
when you go into a GameStop and you try to sell, let's say Madden 25 is coming out, a football game, right? And you go in and try to sell Madden 24 before, like right before or in the months after, it is worthless. And you will get there sometimes and they're just like, nope, sorry,
Yeah.
everybody's selling Madden 24.
10 cents.
We're not
Yeah.
buying anymore. Or if you want to, we'll give you $2 for it. It's like it becomes worthless, right? Because of the inflation. They know, they see everybody coming in to turn them over. And really, it is funny because those sports games that release a new edition every year, the value of the older ones just really never recovers afterwards because there's not the interest there either. You were talking about trading the news and whatnot. You know, yeah, that's a little different. But you know, when you can get something newer and shinier, the old thing loses its luster, you know,
Exactly.
and its value.
Well, I think the thing you have to do, knowing that Bitcoin does trade in a channel, it's your basic philosophy of buy and hold, and you're waiting to
Yes.
see what happens to it in a number of years. You can't expect it to take off and have a big jump like it did at the election or like it has at other times for other things. It's very much a buy and hold commodity. You know, you don't have expiration dates like you do on regular commodities.
No.
You're not buying a futures contract, but you're buying something that it's really long-term hold.
Totally.
You know, and I just don't think you can expect. I mean, people want to start generating income off of it right away or seeing their account go up, but I don't think that's the way it works with this. But I do think there will be some news that's really going to drive it up. I think it's going to jump way up. But you know what? After that, I think we're going back into channel again.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be more or less a stable price that's going up and down. And so even if it goes up to maybe 200,000 per Bitcoin, or your mom was saying she heard somewhere 250,000 by the end of the year, it's whatever it goes to, I think it's going back in that channel. And it's going to be, like you said, there's the buyers and sellers are pretty much going to be equal each other out. And it's just going to be kind of going along steady. And really, isn't that kind of what you want in a currency, is stability? Maybe, I don't know, that's kind of a problem with Bitcoin, is it doesn't have as much stability as like the dollar does. But the dollar, it keeps gradually losing. It's stable, but it's always going down ever so slowly. And the Bitcoin, you know, you're getting ups and downs on it, but within that range, it seems pretty stable, you know, and that does kind of make it tough for a currency, because if you're trying to sell milk and eggs, you don't know how much Bitcoin they're worth today, how much you pay versus. So it's kind of almost like, with as much fluctuation, as much volatility as you get, you have to have a backup currency like the dollar. And you have to be using like Cash App or something like that, where you're converting some of your Bitcoin into dollars to buy your bacon and eggs, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a problem. You know, the way I see it is Bitcoin is sort of a backup currency. And it's like you're having gold, but you're not going to buy enough in the supermarket to use one whole Cougarand. You know, it's just going to be a speck off that Cougarand to get, you know, whatever your groceries are. And so I think that's kind of where it's going to be for a while, is you're going to have the Bitcoin that you're holding, and then you're going to have to convert it to currency, fiat currency, and use it. I don't see it really being, it's too volatile to have it be the main currency, you know, at this point at least. And maybe once most of the countries in the world are accepting it and all that, then you can make it a stable currency, but you've always got people buying and selling. And so you're always going to have some volatility in it because it is a commodity. It's not.
And it was, I would say there's certain qualities. I mean, you said a lot of interesting things there, Dad. There's certain qualities that we look for in money. Like, we don't use gold all the time for money. It's not as easy to transact in gold. It's not as portable as dollars, right?
Right.
It's not as easy. It's not as divisible as dollars or Bitcoin, for that matter. Bitcoin's very portable, very
divisible. Yeah.
Very divisible, even more so than the dollar. It's fungible. You can trade unit for unit. Gold isn't always entirely fungible because it might be in the form of jewelry. It might be in other forms where it's higher purity, lesser purity. So it's not exactly trading a one for one every time. Transportability is a big deal. There's another feature that they call unit of account. And that's where some currency is kind of the de facto, or the government's chosen to use this specific currency as the one that we measure the price of things in generally. And Bitcoin is definitely not there yet. That's the dollar right now. We measure eggs, milk, the things that you're talking about in dollars.
Right.
And that stability, like you said, it comes with a trade-off. There is always the dollar. You have imperfect people using imperfect systems to try to manage that stability of the dollar to keep the price. And we're not very good at it. And you can see by the inflation that we've endured post-COVID, like the prices of everything have gone up. And that is by and large due to the fact that the currency has not been kept stable. Too much of it was created in too short of a time. So now people want more of it for the same thing. And so that's a trade-off. And honestly, Bitcoin may never get to the point where it is the world's reserve currency. Well, it may never get to the point where it's the unit of account, that our prices are all denominated in Bitcoin. But there is a trade-off there. And I think I personally feel like if it never moves there, I'm still a massive Bitcoin enthusiast, because what Bitcoin does very well is it is a store of value. And a store of value means that it can keep the value of the money you put in to acquire it and grow it over time. It will keep or grow in its purchasing power. Whereas the opposite with that is the dollar, where it's losing over time. It's not a store of value, right? Yeah. You're losing your purchasing power the longer you hold dollars instead of other things like stocks, and even gold is barely keeping up with even though the price has gone up of gold, it's not keeping pace with inflation. So there's very few things right now that people can put their money in. That's why housing is so expensive right now. So many people are getting into, so many companies are getting into buying housing, because it's another place where you can protect the purchasing power of your money. So Bitcoin is fantastic in those things. And actually with the volatility is a trade-off. I've mentioned Nassim Taleb many times, but he talks about volatility in his writings and how it is the best regulator out there. Our regulators in our system and our government, they find the problems generally, like 99% of the time, after the damage has been done, right? Mm-hmm. Volatility is kind of a proactive. It shakes the system loose. That whole FTX blow up and the other companies that blew up because they were not being managed well and they were being fraudulent, they were shooken up by the volatility of Bitcoin. And so it keeps the Bitcoin environment very strong and healthy. And then going back, and that's a trade-off, because there's ways to manage your money. And I talk about this in the other things that I teach in First Step Bitcoin on how to build your wealth, starting with Bitcoin, using other tools like index funds, putting them in the right investment vehicles, the right type of investment account, so that you don't have to pay taxes on them. All these things work together, but at some point in time, you do need something that can be stable over a 4-year period to put some money into, because your Bitcoin cycles are, at this point in time, it may change. Part of me hopes that it doesn't, to be honest, because I think it's better off that it doesn't. And you can plan 4 years out. And again, going back to what you were saying even earlier, Bitcoin gets you to think long term. And right. I'm trying to get people to adopt this mentality of, I'm not buying Bitcoin for the next spike in Bitcoin price. I'm buying it for 20 years from now. I'm going to say this till I'm blue in the face. And I think if people will buy $500 of Bitcoin, move it to a Bitcoin only wallet and get to see how that works and then commit to hold it for 20 years, I think after the first 4 years, they're going to get it. They're going to say, okay, now I'm
buying more of this.
Now I'm starting to understand. Now I'm going to buy more because you're buying long-term. Bitcoin doesn't reward you over a year. Usually it doesn't, right? You may buy it at just the right time and it blows up on you. Awesome for you. If you keep buying it, you're going to buy most of your Bitcoin and see it just go sideways or drop for a year, 2 years, 3 years before it starts to grow and do its thing again. And I love the saying, time in the market always beats timing the market.
Right.
You want to buy and hold for the long term. There's a lot of assets that will, buying index funds will do really well for you if you use the same mentality. I'm not buying it for now, for a year from now. I'm buying it for 20 years from now. And you will see as you hold it and you get time in an investment, meaning you've held it for a long period of time, you will catch all those days where it really shoots up. You'll also catch some days where it drops down.
Where it drops.
Over time, the growth
the trajectory is up.
In healthy assets, it outstrips the drops. Whereas if you're trading it, like you were saying, you're always paying attention to the price, you're always trying to, most studies show that people who do that on a regular basis underperform the market. Like 92% or more of the people, professional people with amazing tools, tons of computers, special software, tons of money to do research, they lose to the general price increase of just the S&P 500, the basic stock market, 92% of the time. That's impressive.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say too, you could use that volatility if you were using it, to spend and buy groceries or whatever. You could use that channel too. You could wait till it's at the top and you could say, well, I'm going to need $5,000 for all of my expenses this month. And so at the top of the channel, you convert that to dollars. And so then, you're taking advantage of that volatility. And then when it's dropped at the bottom of the channel, maybe if you got any money left over, then you put that back into Bitcoin. But, you can sort of time that whole channel thing. And maybe it's not month to month as much as maybe longer term, but you could, figure out when it hits highs. And that's when you can convert it to dollars to live on. And then as it drops, you're still up here higher, what you're using to live on.
One of the things that I'll teach people and talk about as we get into like First Step Bitcoin Masters and First Step Bitcoin Elite classes is talking about how you'll get to a point where you're going to want to take out 4 years worth of income, right? Once you get close to retirement, you're going to want to take out 4 years worth of income and put it into maybe like some sort of dollar-based bond. There's different options, but essentially you want to be able to ride out a 4-year period because you don't know when those channels are going to change. We can't predict the other things that happen, like reactions to an election is somewhat predictable, though 4 years from now, we don't know exactly who's going to be running. We don't know the state of the country, right? We don't know when there's going to be a natural disaster that's going to affect the prices of things. So if we can get 4 years worth of income once we're into retirement or financial independence phase of our lives, then we can bridge those things. And then we can start using some of what you're talking as well. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can start trying to capture some gains and losses in those channels. But I would caution people, this is exactly what those professional people do that fail 92% of the time. It's just really hard even to know that, like, we could set up some orders right now to buy it, like you said, 92.5, right? And that price could never hit that, right? So you'd never cash in. It could go to 82.5, right? And it could also shoot up the other way. Like, we just never know when it's going to break out of that channel as well. Exactly. So I'm not saying don't use these things. I'm just saying be careful and have your number one strategy be, I'm holding this for 20 years from now, because that is going to serve you better. Time in the market is going to serve you better than trying to time the market, trading, selling at the high of the channel, buying at the low. You've been doing this for so long, Dad. Sometimes I remember I used to trade Forex, and I would find these patterns that would work great until they did it. Then they would fail spectacularly. And unless I was using some sort of stop order, I could lose all the profit that I'd made over months because now that pattern wasn't working anymore. And we never really know when the channel is going to change. We never really know when that pattern is going to change. So for the majority of the people listening to this right now, I want to get you to buy your first $500 of Bitcoin if you haven't already. To hold that for 20 years so you can start playing this long-term game. Then we're going to get you into the right kind of accounts, with the right brokerages where you can have an HSA account, a Roth IRA account. You're going to roll over funds from your old 401ks and your old IRAs and Roth IRAs. You're going to roll them over there so you can take advantage of not having to pay taxes on your money when it grows. Then we're going to put it into the right investments that are going to keep pace with the market, and they're going to outpace inflation. So like index funds and Bitcoin. And as you start to do that and you're committed to do this for 20 years, you're going to see this growth, and it's going to be empowering. It's going to give you a confidence that you haven't had before. And it is so simple to do. This is not complicated. It took me years to figure out how to use these things, but I can share them with you in minutes. I could have last night or last week, 2 weeks ago, I was working with one of my daughters to get these accounts set up with her so she can roll over some things and get her HSA funded. It took us less than 15 minutes to open up an HSA. It took us less than 15 minutes to open up a Swan Bitcoin account to start buying Bitcoin. It took less than 15 minutes to open up a Roth IRA so that after she maxes out her contributions to her HSA, she can put it there. And 2 simple investments in each of these accounts that she's using. It is very simple to run. We can get you set up quick on these things, and you can start playing that long-term game that is so much more profitable than trading. Now, I know there's some guys out there like you, Dad, that love, and I do too. You can still trade. Just make it a very small portion of your portfolio and have fun with it. But don't base your retirement, your financial independence strategy on timing the market, because the odds are you're going to lose.
One other really important thing is I don't think just buy $500 and hold it. I think you need to make regular contributions to your retirement fund or whatever you want to call it, IRA, hopefully, or 401k if your company offers it. But you need, because I think that's what really got Mom and I most of our wealth, was that every week we were signed up, and they took money out of our paycheck and put it into the 401k. And that steady contribution over time is what really added up. And plus being tied, they let you tie it. There were no ETFs back when we started doing this, but they had funds, and we tied it to a fund that was a small cap fund, and it really did quite well. I just think that regular contribution is huge.
Absolutely.
It can't just be $500 and stop,
And I was
even if it's only $10 a week, I mean, whatever you can afford to put in there, then put it in, and just forget about it. Let it grow.
And automate it. I love that. It isn't just $500. I want people to do that to start, but you're absolutely right. I want everyone to make regular, because that is having time in the market. They call it dollar cost averaging. Some of you watching this may have heard that. What that means is you're buying on a regular basis. Maybe you're buying once a week. Maybe you're buying once every bi-weekly, like every paycheck, every 2 weeks paycheck, or once a month, but you're buying on a regular basis. And like you were saying, you want to automate it. All your contributions should be
automated. Take your emotion out of it.
You don't want to have to think about it. You want to build a system that invests for you automatically, puts it into the right investments automatically, and holds it there for you for long term. That is what you want to set up. And I'm glad you brought that up, Dad, because that is important. I don't want people to think buy $500 of Bitcoin, you're good for life. It's not that way at all. That is just a learning tool. That is helping people to understand the power of Bitcoin and get familiar with it.
Get your feet wet.
Yes, exactly. But they need to do exactly what you just said. They need to automate their investments. They need to buy regularly. Yeah, there's over time, you're going to create powerful wealth by doing that. Awesome. Well, hey, that's an hour.
Okay.
A little more than, well, not quite an hour because I started a couple minutes late, but a lot of barbecue and a lot of Bitcoin.
Both good.
Both very good.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for being on with me today, Dad, and for everyone else who turned in. Appreciate it. All right.
See you next week.
Yep. See ya.